Today, we're here to break down one of Black cinema's most popular love stories from the year 2000, Love and Basketball, which tells the story of Monica and Quincy, two childhood friends who both aspire to be professional basketball players. Over the years, Monica, played by Sanaa Lathan, and Quincy, played by Omar Epps, begin to fall for each other, but basketball took them on separate paths and it threatened to pull them apart.
When Love and Basketball was released back in 2000, it became a fan favorite. But taking a closer look 24 years later, was the love depicted in this film a healthy love? We'll answer this question and more. In this video, we'll be focusing on Quincy and Monica's time in college at USC and how it tests their relationship.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
A lot of you requested that we cover this film, and I can't wait for us to talk about it. But first, we want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/Axiom Amnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. So we're back to discuss Love and Basketball, one of the most, I guess, hotly debated these days discussions about the love story, the love of romantic love, basketball love, all that kind of love, right? So we have already done 2 hours worth of a review of basically the first half of the film.
Yeah, so in the last one, I said that this was, possibly 4 acts, but I think it's really just 3 acts. And quarter 1 and quarter 2 is the first act.
Mm-hmm.
But they just put on the screen for the viewers to make it seem like 4 quarters of basketball.
Yeah, that is a good observation. And so to kind of give a recap of exactly where we are in the film, first we saw Monica and Quincy as children. They first tried to, hook up as 11-year-olds or whatever. And clearly that wasn't going to work out. And then we saw them finally, after much anticipation, get together in high school, right in their senior year. And they're about to head off to USC. So that's where we left off.
Monica is in college. She happens to be at USC, because she got that letter and everything.
Yes.
And she is no Juju Watson. She's having trouble as a freshman there.
Point guards lead from the front, not the back.
The year is 1988 to 89.
Yeah, and, but she plays point guard, right? And she doesn't seem to be doing very well. And
You trying to tell me you can't take a little charge? I can take it.
her teammate even lets her know, right? The coach is riding her, and
Monica, this is low. This is low. You got it?
they had this little back and forth about her not really liking freshmen.
Coach hates me, doesn't she?
She hates all freshmen.
And everybody is giving her a hard time. She's giving herself a hard time because she seems to be having a little trouble adjusting. And maybe it is just hard for, transitioning from high school athletics to college athletics, especially in such a competitive sport like women's basketball. And so she's asked her, the coach hates me, doesn't she? And her teammates like, nah, the coach just hates all freshmen. So it's kind of like it's not a personal thing, because I think Monica, as we've discussed before, comes into this situation with the chip on her shoulder of all that she's been through thus far, with the difficulties of just playing, women's basketball. And so I think she just wants to know, is it me? Is this another situation where even though I'm now playing with all of these girls or women, I'm still like the outcast? So I think that's part of what was going on. But the coach says something that I wasn't quite sure if that's true or not. But she says offense sells tickets and defense wins games.
Offense sells tickets. Defense wins games.
And it made me kind of think about right now, with we were sort of talking about Angel Reese before and LSU and how women's college basketball is really, people are paying attention to it right now.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's what they say. Well, if you don't have any defense, and the other team is just going to run a score up, right? So, I don't know. But it could go either way. From my perspective, that it could be the offense, it could be the defense, it could be a combination of both. It just depends on the game to me.
Yeah.
But, they always have these cliches, and I'm sure people are going to be in the comments say, no, it's defense wins games because you bought into the cliche. But
Yeah. And she's also talking to Sidra in the weight room. Now, Sidra is the teammate who, for the last 2 years, has been the starting point guard, same position as Monica. So it's clear that they, she's like nice nasty to her, right? She's like,
Nasty.
exactly. And she's just like, yeah, we play the same part, but we're teammates.
I don't think just because we play the same position, we have to compete with each other.
And then she like drops
know,
the
no
weight
need to
bar on
compete.
her.
And ain't no way some soft-ass freshman is taking my spot.
Right. And leaves her in that position, and another teammate has to come and get this weight bar off of her. So I don't know. Is that sportsmanlike? What, clearly
No,
it's territory marking.
I've been the starting point the last 2 years.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, she's having a real hard time. And then next we see where she and Quincy are now, walking on campus together, and she's talking about homework and stuff like that.
Broke down how I'm gonna make mad loot in the NBA, being I'm such a limited commodity.
Again, we get to see Quincy and Monica and kind of what their updated relationship is like. So then as they're walking on campus, a girl kind of passes by and she's telling Quincy, oh, are you going to take us to the Final Four?
You gonna take us to the Final Four?
We'll see.
I'll be watching.
Hope so.
And he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he's just really enjoying his spot as this, top recruit, top athlete on big man on campus. And it, there's kind of like a little bit of flirtation going back and forth. But as we saw before, Monica,
There was?
you didn't think that was flirtation? Because I think he kind of flirted back with her a little bit in a way. She was flirting with him and he kind of flirted back with her. To me, that's what it was. Not, I
okay.
mean, it wasn't like he was like, meet me in my room and, everything like that. But Monica took it as disrespectful.
So what did he say?
How did he respond?
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, I'm going to try to take us to the Final Four. So he said yes or whatever.
Okay.
And, what did you take it as he said?
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Well, how is that flirtation? One
Well,
sentence is.
It's
man,
not
that's
okay.
Crazy.
So it's not just that what he actually said. It's like, from Monica's point of view, he's being a little bit.
But
too...
if we're talking about point of views, then does that make it universal? Right? Clearly, she was jealous that a girl came up to her.
You do see me standing here, right?
I guess we can say that he was flirting back. So yeah.
I mean, and again, not like any over the top thing. And to me, I didn't feel what he did was disrespectful either. I think that what he did was play the game of what you have to do or what people feel like you should do to make people continue to like you when you're popular. And, it's like, this is the thing that famous people do, right? And when they don't do it, they get criticized for it. Am I right? They're like, oh, I met so-and-so and he was nasty.
Flirting and just responding.
Okay.
To a person.
So I guess I'll modify that a little bit and I'll say that he was friendly to her in a way that one would expect somebody who is high profile to be friendly to the fans. And he did refer to her as a fan.
I can't be nice to a fan.
And I think that there is a certain amount of behavior that is expected from people, because you're criticized if you don't seem approachable and nice and friendly. And that was what he was doing. I don't think he did anything inappropriate.
He just likes having the attention and stuff, right? And being revered in that way too. So
I definitely think that for sure. But the question is whether it was over the line. For Monica, that's a sensitive spot for her, as it always has been with the girls. She's jealous. And then it's always that there's the comparison. She's having a hard time. He's flying high. He's popular and she's unknown, but she's with him. So people probably know her because of his notoriety on campus.
Yeah, but I don't know if maybe she could assume that he wasn't having a hard time. But at this point, we don't know what's going on.
But what's portrayed is he's like, yeah, they say I'm going to be this and I'm going to the NBA. Like his path appears to be clear. Everybody on campus is looking at him as the next greatest hope for the basketball team, while she's, taking hell from her teammates. To me, I think that's what the movie wants us to at least see and believe about the situation. But
movies always do misdirection like that too.
This is true.
So you don't know what's going on.
And then we get to the back and we see a scene where he's totally struggling and he's crying and
Yeah.
Okay. But But yeah, so that's what I see when I look at this. Monica continuing to be jealous and Quincy continuing to be cocky, And then we get to see what I think is one of the most iconic shots from this movie.
Hey, look, I can't help it if girls come up to me.
I said fine. fine.
She gets serious. He starts being playful with her and he like tackles her to the ground or whatever.
Oh, twin, quit.
And he's hugging her and stuff. And mind you, this is all public. So he's publicly claiming her. He's publicly with her. Everybody knows that this is the girlfriend.
You're such a punk.
They're sharing a moment and he's basically trying to reassure her. He's like, all these girls and you're the only one I know who's real. Like, I know you're real.
All these girls, you're the only one I know who's for real.
I don't think that's just a BS line that he's telling her. I think that that's how he really feels about Monica.
He knew her the whole time, right? So they're friends, and these are new people, right?
Yes.
So that's very easy to say.
It is easy to say. Do you think he was being truthful about that, or you think he just was like, okay, this is my girlfriend for now?
But I would say don't give a man a point for something like that. If he's like, oh, you've been on and down with me for my whole life, and these people are new. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, yeah.
See, that's the whole thing with the love stories, right? Is that the characters they're seeing it through the eyes of love, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just what it is. And the viewers too, right? So that it could make people really like the movie.
Well, and I think that that's what happened. And this is a good point, I think, to bring this question up, because there are a lot of people that we saw in the comments from the first video that we did who were like, this movie is toxic. This movie is terrible. This movie is the worst example for women. This movie. And, everybody can have their opinion and view of the movie. And my response to a few people as we discussed it, because there were just as many people who were like, this was my favorite movie. I love this movie. And I was talking to one commenter in the comments, and she was saying, do I think that the younger generations, how they feel about the movie? What is my take on that? Kind of was basically what we're talking about. And I said, it makes me a little sad. And I pointed to this in the last video where we were talking about slow dancing, but it makes me a little sad because I feel like there's not as much hope, know, and if you're older and maybe life has taken you through some changes and you feel like, dang, you have like a reason to have a certain level, if you want to call it, of questioning whether this is possible for you and all of that.
Yeah.
But when you're just when you come into the world, like you ain't even been out and lived really, and you're just like, men are horrible. I don't want to do this. Oh, he's a scrub. He's dusty. This is toxic. Like, and I don't even know. All I can say is just the culture is very different, and we're all interpreting the film through the eyes of the culture at the time, and we're products of our generations. And some people come and they're like, well, what about you all, blah blah blah, and you must be young. I'm like, we ain't young, we in our 40s.
Yeah. So the thing is that the way this new generation is, or the newer generations, I don't know, and I think it's pervasive, so it goes back to the older generations, because that's how culture works, right? It isn't just, it just affects the younger people. It affects the older ones too. That any level of adversity is completely off limits. So if you in a relationship with somebody and you have an argument, then, or a disagreement, or he may appear to flirt, then just completely cut him off. It's over, and it's toxic all the way to the extreme. There is no so-called nuance of anything, and it's just over, right? So if your mama did something, or you know what I'm saying, somebody borrowed money and didn't pay you back, then toxic. It's completely over, toxic, everything's over. Just throw the whole
relationship away.
Yeah, like just that's just where it is now, and that is lost. So now when we see movies that actually what make good movies, right? Not the whack ass movies that's all the way to the extreme like that, where you have these sort of adversities, you have these conflicts and problems that are able to be resolved. Then you have something good, instead of just labeling everything as toxic. When you got toxic is a level that's so far extreme versus something is bad, there is a problem. When people just say toxic, I just kind of just whatever. I start to ignore them at that point, because the stuff that point out what is toxic.
Well, and then everything is toxic, which makes the things that really are at that extreme, it waters those things down.
It makes it not even mean anything.
If a person, like you said, borrowed money and didn't pay it back, or they always have a habit of doing a certain thing, that's toxic. And then we're putting that in the same toxic bucket as, people who SA people abuse, or any other type of, I mean, it just, it's a wild way to look at the world. But I want to be clear, like, I'm not blaming the younger generations. By younger, I mean maybe the people in their 20s up to maybe about the age 30. I don't blame you for how you are, because the culture, you are the result of the
were
culture
born
when you
into
got
this.
here, right? So it's the previous generations who are really responsible for the culture that exists when you come into the world, right? If you saw this movie as a child, if and we're programmed by how we hear other people talk about things, the
Yeah,
other
and
things
your
people
language
are
is
willing
also
to do.
limited by that too.
Sure. So to be clear, like, I'm not blaming. What I wish is that there was some hope to balance out the hard things in
Yeah.
life,
Because like if their relationship is toxic, isn't the relationship with the coach itself toxic?
Every relationship is
Every
toxic in the movie. The mother-daughter relationship that we talked about, and again,
Bruh.
and this is something to me that's important to the culture, because it's talking about how people are responding and reacting, and kind of how we need to have a course correction,
Yeah, but that's just what I think it is. Anytime there's some sort of conflict or adversity that has to be resolved or fleshed out, then it's just labeled as toxic and dismissed, and that's detrimental to the culture, really.
Yeah. That's just really kind of my comment there. But so back to this iconic scene, and they're, it really outwardly showing affection toward one another.
I love you too.
Monica is what they call cooking Sidra in practice.
Right now, push it up. Oh, nice steal.
She's got stealing from her. She's hitting shots, easy layups and stuff.
Only after, though, the coaches criticized her about not being hard enough, like aggressive enough.
Right. And then, she's like, Sidra, is you going to play some D? And then, Monica starts to feeling herself. You know what I'm saying? She shoots a 3, I think it is. And then she just stands there,
Keeps that
Gotta
pose,
show
has
off.
her hand and pinky finger up in the air.
And then Sidra has a fast break. And then it's like, all right, yeah. All of that stuff that you done is just completely wiped away, like we were talking about. You're playing toxically.
Well, you're so busy posing, your man just scored.
And then I wonder, for the people who think everything is toxic, is what the coach is doing toxic? Is it toxic for the coach to make Monica then stand up and have to keep that pose for the rest of
Bruh.
practice?
I want you to stand like that for the rest of practice.
Coach.
So she publicly shames her, and then she says, staying in this position. Basically, I don't want to see you posing out there. You're going to be giving away points, and this is unacceptable. Is that toxic? Is
it
the coach
abuse?
toxic? Is it abusive? Because we just need to establish these lines. Clearly, the lines have moved since we came along, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about that in the comments.
Yeah, that's crazy, but that's what happened to her, trying to show out.
Some people say, though, that would be teaching discipline, right? This is your punishment. This is helping you course correct.
So it's beating somebody.
That's what they say about that, too. Again, I don't look at this and say that this is toxic. I think this is part of the discipline that you might see in a number of different circumstances, where what you do is important and you can't be slipping up.
That's what you get for trying to show out, freshman.
So then in the locker room, it gets even worse between Monica and Sidra. And Sidra's like, you were trying to make fun of me.
Trying to make me look bad.
And they're in turn kind of making fun of Monica because she had to stand there.
Yo, why?
And you basically deserve what you got. And then Monica's like, oh, well, I didn't have to work that hard to
make you look bad.
You look bad. Yeah.
Didn't have to try very hard.
And then that's when Sidra just lets her have it. She's like, I know you ain't talking when you are sloppy seconds.
Girl, don't you know you just sloppy seconds?
Basically, the fact that recruiting was done. She wasn't going to even be able to get on the team at USC. And Tanya Randall got pregnant and decided not to go, leaving a spot open. And then that's how Monica got on the team.
The only reason you here is because Tanya Randall got pregnant and decided not to come.
Well, yeah, whatever. Oh,
But it happens all the time.
Oh, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
I got recruited.
Guess what? I'm here, but at the end of the day, this changes, I think, how Monica feels about herself on some level, right? She doesn't know this bit of information when we remember back to that scene where she opens the letter and it's like, yes, I got in, so before this, it's like, hey, even though I haven't been recruited, at the end, it's just that a fluke happened that let her in. If you remember in the beginning of the movie,
Man, flukes is what happened to everybody.
they do.
For
The father is like,
everything.
let's give up. It's time to give up hope because you got one game left and you ain't been
But
recruited.
God had other plans.
Exactly. And this is how, these things happen in film and sometimes even in life.
In real life, that's how it happens. You never know what's going on. So what if she didn't get pregnant, right? And I'm sure this done happen a whole bunch of times where somebody decided not to play. Somebody got cut, right?
Somebody got hurt.
What if she
right?
was like, the only reason you're here is because someone got hurt? Okay, I'm here. What? I don't get what you're saying.
Yeah, I got a spot.
I'm clearly good enough.
But she's saying you weren't wanted. You weren't the first choice. And this for Monica is the theme of her freaking life. You weren't wanted by your mama and your sister because you're not like them. You weren't wanted by the guys in high school because you weren't like the other girls. And even you felt at one point you weren't wanted by Quincy because you're comparing yourself to the other girls that you thought he was more interested in. But I still contend Quincy was always, up to this point in the movie, from what we've seen, he was really always looking at her. She was the one from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the other thing I don't understand that I see is we're to this point in the film, where we are here, people are like, he dogged her out. Okay, what? Where did he dog her? Up to this point in the movie where they have arrived at college, where did he actually dog her out? Please explain that to me in the comments if you feel that way.
Yeah,
I don't think he dogged her out.
I didn't see where he dogged her. I see he chose her because, so the thing is, they went to high school, split apart. Of course, you ain't going to have no middle school relationship really all the time, last until high school. And they got to high school and then they got back together.
Yeah.
I don't know where the dogging went or where, maybe it was later on he dogged her. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, that didn't happen.
Yeah, and the other thing I hear a lot is like, oh, Monica is like a pick me. He didn't want her. This is the argument that people are making. He didn't want her, but she just was like, I'm going to wait. What makes you think that Quincy didn't want her? See, this is part of the critical thinking and taking the clues from the movie. The clues from the movie are telling you that just because he hasn't made it happen or she hasn't made it happen doesn't mean that both of them don't want it to happen. These were, young kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, that assessment is a bit off base. But let us continue.
Man, forget Tanya Randall.
They're sitting in Quincy's room, lying down basically all over each other, icing each other down because they so hot for each other, hot in the pants.
Shut up. You sound like a old man. They so hot in the pants for each other.
They talking about Tanya Randall and stuff. And she's like, I think the coach would rather her. No, shit. I mean, whatever. But
I'm telling you, Coach wishes she was here instead of me.
She's telling Quincy, you got it easy. It's the reverse of how you learn.
I don't have it easy like you, all right? There's no red carpet laid out for me.
Really?
She's saying you got it easy, I got it hard. But also, I feel like she's trying to look for a reason why she feels she's being treated differently. But I don't know that she really is being treated differently because the coach was talking crazy to everybody on the team.
Well, I think all of players feel that way, especially when you have these situations where hazing is just standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like when you come in as a freshman, then the coaches and the other players are going to treat you a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to happen all the time. And then you just going to feel like that, even if you're not good enough. You probably the best in high school, then you get to the college level and you just starting over. You're freshman, you at the bottom, unless you just have some supreme talent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you still got to be developed at even that level, right? Which is why you come in like that and you going to get called out probably more. Because you still, you got your fundamentals and then you got the next level stuff that you got to really learn. And that's why you're there. And so you're going to feel that way.
And she's saying, hey, there's no red carpet laid out for me, which kind of points back to what I was saying before. So Monica's claiming is that the reality is that they rolled out a red carpet for Quincy and basically she's treated like she's not even wanted. That's the way Monica is portraying it.
Yeah. But see, that's how Malik, Omar Epps, was with Deja, right? Oh,
in Higher Learning.
Yeah, where they're talking about, look, they'll take that innocent black woman or whatever, And she's like, you know those girls who I stay with.
Yeah.
It's like he perceived that, you had it easier. And that's just basically what she's doing to him because you're only looking at your own problems at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then he's just like, yeah, whatever. If you don't want to work harder.
Don't worry about proving everybody wrong.
Telling her to work harder, you need to prove everybody wrong. And then she was like, nah, I shouldn't have to do that, basically. And then he's like, all right, well, then don't do that.
I mean, if you can't handle the pressure, I'll understand.
Don't be the first woman in the NBA, and whatever.
No, I'm serious. I mean, who cares if you're never known as the first girl to be in the NBA?
Speaking of the first woman in the NBA, somebody in the comments had brought up the one and only woman to ever be recruited in the NBA. Her name is Lucia Harris. And yeah.
Okay, yeah. And she was drafted by the New Orleans Jazz. But, okay, that's very easy to say in 2024 when I could just Google this. They were in the early 80s. Like, come on. Maybe you probably could have remembered. She was only 11. And she was drafted in 77. So if we're going to say 5 or whatever, this person wasn't even aware of what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
But so a kid saying that is the character saying it, not a grown person in 2024, too, who can easily Google things.
Well, and it also points to this idea that the fact that she didn't know, because we saw earlier how she knew like the stats for Magic, and it's pointing out kind of this continued disparity between men and women in athletics, but specifically basketball here, where she is like, hey, I don't even know that this woman existed. Right? She doesn't know that because nobody covered it. How many articles were there really on it? Was it people looking at this like this was so amazing,
And she didn't play.
She didn't?
No.
Interesting.
She was like Tanya Randall, and she got pregnant too. According to a simple Google search, but
okay. Yeah, this was the first that I even heard of her.
But yeah,
this was the first I even heard of her, which was where somebody brought it up in the comments, which I appreciate because
I know
continue to let us know.
But to put it on the character is something totally different.
Yeah, but for us, that is important to know because I thought, and I said in the last video, hey, there's been no woman playing, and I guess technically that was true.
Responding to. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I didn't even know about Miss Harris.
Yeah, but I really appreciate you not saying fun fact.
We talked about that in the other video. Yes, but yeah, so that's an important thing that I think we should point out. But back to Monica and Quincy.
Quincy was saying that he was trying to use reverse psychology and stuff. But see, with Monica, I don't know when she really be mad or not because she has this volatile kind of personality, right? And it's been shown throughout, like when the whole jealousy thing, the part about where she was going off in the game and stuff,
I think she really is mad. I think she's mad every time we think she's mad or we see her kind of get grumpy. She is, right?
Yeah, and he was using the reverse psychology jokingly too to try to, convince her to, all right, well, just go ahead and try. Show her the error in her ways, right?
Well, what we're seeing is that he's the antidote to her moodiness, right? When she starts getting riled up and upset, then he jokes around with her.
But he was the cause too.
It don't matter. I mean, we've all seen those situations where the same person that gets under your skin, this is the dynamic of their relationship, right? They get on each other's nerves, but then they, recenter. Somebody says something jokingly, whatever, and then that's it. They don't hold that grudge against one another. Which I think is probably also important for long-lasting relationships.
I don't know if that's true, right? Because she may still hold it within.
Well, she has this running theme, and it's a sensitive area. It's like any other wound you have. And if something gets close to the wound and it touches it, it hurts. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happens every time she is reminded of, I'm a girl trying to play basketball. My life is harder. That is like her mantra. And so when stuff gets close to that, and then on top of that, you're with this top basketball guy. So not only do you have your own struggle, but you have your struggle in the face of somebody else who appears to have the red carpet rolled out for them. That is a very sensitive thing for her. And it is constantly highlighting the sexism that we do see within, athletics. Okay, so it's sexism because the reason why we don't know even Lucia Harris's name Okay,
Yeah,
it's
but I'm talking
sexism
about
because
from the
it's harder.
character. So I know that's sexism, but I'm talking
Yes,
about from her getting mad at him for trying to convince her to try harder.
because she's convinced herself that it's not that she needs to try harder. It's that things are just harder for her because she's Monica and she's a girl. And on some level that is true, but it's, she clearly wasn't up to par as much as the other girls
Right.
because she's new, because she needs to be developed at this level, like you pointed out. So I think in this scene, Monica is making excuses, though. She's making excuses for why, and those excuses on some level are valid, but you also need to get your game up. It's like saying, oh, I didn't go to practice and everything, but they're saying that's because I didn't go to practice. Yeah, you might have
Yeah.
talent, but it needs to be developed.
Yeah, but see, the thing too is that it's all women on the team too. It's not like she's a woman and the other players are men.
But she wants her
Right.
experience to be like Quincy's experience, and it's
Yeah.
not. And it ain't never gonna be.
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know if that's because of the sexism in the way of him trying to convince her she reacts like this.
So I think that this is the situation. You got this overarching theme and issue for her, and then things that happen throughout her challenges throughout her life, these specific incidents that trigger her into her overall feelings
Yeah,
about
so
where
it make
she
me
is.
think of like, is the writing sexist? Because think about, let's say I'm not a woman, so I can't really feel it from that level, but being black, right? And then somebody makes a movie and they say basically you're just making excuses, right? Because racism exists. It would be, I would think, more that the writing is anti-black than me legitimately feeling a way.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
so with regard to her and the challenges of being a female athlete, I would say that I don't see an issue in terms of that. I think it's a real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a real thing.
But the narrative is that she is overreacting, and from you bringing up the sexism, that she is overreacting and playing the sex card, the gender card, right?
No. So I'm not saying that she's
I'm not saying that you're
oh,
saying, but I'm
oh,
saying
okay.
that's what is the narrative. Because if he has to convince her that, oh, it's not because of sexism, you just got to work harder. That's the same as if I'm saying this things is happening like in How You're Learning because I'm black, and they're like, no, you just got to work harder.
And it just depends on how you view these characters and whether you think that what the character is saying is accurate, right? So if you agree with the position that Quincy takes, then you don't see a problem with that.
But I think that's what the movie tells us, that she just needs to work harder, and you even agreed that she wasn't up to par.
I agree that she's not up to par. I also agree that she has a harder road than Quincy.
A harder road in basketball?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that's not
But
changing.
they're all women.
It doesn't matter that they're all women. She wants to have the experience Quincy is having. And even if you were the best A1,
So
amazing,
that
most
stuff
winning
is outside of
experience,
basketball being respected and stuff. I was thinking of her being treated the way the coach is treating her based on whatever's going on in practice, because they're all women.
okay.
Right? If we're all black and we're in movies, and then I feel like I'm not treated right because I'm black, but the whole production and everything is black and my acting isn't up to par, then is it about me being black because I don't get respect by the academy?
So you have multiple things happening on different levels. Yes. And when she was in high school, she was playing against all women. Nothing has changed about being with all women. But she's got this transition that's happening, and we acknowledge that, right? She does need to work harder, and she does need to stop making excuses. But at the same time, she's comparing, in a way, apples to apples, or apples to oranges. Maybe not apples to oranges, but the types of different apples. If you have one apple that is much sought after, aka men's basketball at this point in time, there's a whole NBA for men to play basketball, and yes, the WNBA, but we all know that women's sports in general are not, even still today, as popular as sports where men are playing. They're just not. Except maybe in gymnastics and certain other, things. But in general, the men's sports are more popular.
So they decide that they are, Quincy is just like, hey, play me one-on-one.
So how about a little one-on-one?
And she's like, what are we going to play for?
What we playing for?
I don't even understand why you would have to ask, what are we going to play for? Like, we're just playing, right? If we say, hey, let's play checkers, do you ask, what are we going to play for? Or do you just play? But I guess that's trying to be playful.
Yeah, and
then
that's
he's
what they
like,
always do, right?
We
That's
playing
their
for them
history.
draws.
Shut up.
I score, you strip.
That's their history.
Hold up, when they first met, what were they playing for? I guess I haven't seen it. That's the only time they played each other, right? I guess it's establishing that for later on.
Yeah, I mean, because we know the big scene
Yeah,
toward
but
the end.
if we don't know, but I guess because I already know, then I know why they put it there. But yeah, it's just rather odd.
Yeah, so you've heard of strip poker. They decide to play strip basketball.
Strip.
So they start to play or whatever, and Pimp Aaron Hall is playing in the background.
It's Guy I Like. Mhm.
Yeah, and basically they just played a stupid little game.
Oh, where's the dude?
It's right here.
Man, it's always with these sports movies like this, I just don't like the length of these scenes.
You mean when they're playing?
Yeah.
Well, so why don't you like the length of how long they played strip
Because it's not
basketball
advancing
for?
anything, really.
Okay, so I'm going to push back on you and say I do think it advances something. Number one, it heightens the dynamic of their romantic relationship. We see that it's more than just them arguing and her being disgruntled. Number one.
Fan loving basketball, baby.
We see that they enjoy basketball in every aspect of their life. Even when they get ready to do, they are playing basketball right before,
Okay,
right? So it talks about.
It has to be 3 minutes?
So I just feel like I learned about the characters
Oh,
in this
okay.
in this scene. So that's what I would say.
So did he lock the door?
I didn't even notice.
What if the dude bust in? You sure you don't want these wings?
Maybe he knew because he says, all right, he's in there with a girl, so I shouldn't just bust in. Maybe she's always there. So in this scene, a Guy I Like, Teddy Riley, and his connection with New Jack Swing. You pointed out in the last video that you can stand New Jack Swing. You didn't like that era, and somebody was like, oh, you youngins or whatever, because you didn't like New Jack Swing. And
Bruh.
I thought that was kind of funny.
I didn't even see that one.
Yeah. Well, I said to the person, I said, hey, for me personally, there are very few neo soul songs that I like, and neo soul was very popular. In when I was coming along, it was very popular, and I'm like, I was there. It doesn't mean I was too young. I was there, and I had to sit through it.
Yeah. So just you're required to like everything that came out when you were around. If only you were there, then you would like this. You know how many people just detest disco?
Who were there?
Who was making disco?
People were making disco and hated it.
Yeah, but the thing about New Jack Swing is it's dated. It didn't hold up so much like other genres. Yeah, so I don't know what age has to do with that.
Well, I think you put the nail on the head, right? I think you got it when you said, hey, if you were only there, you would know how much, you would love it too, kind of thing. And no. So next we see a montage of music and scenes, and we see that Quincy is number 22, just like his father. And we see the game, and there's all the flashing light bulbs and cheering and everything. And juxtaposed against that is Monica, who is really stepping up her game by practicing. She's dribbling with 2 balls at the same time. I'm like, she seemed to have gotten it through her noggin that she did actually need to step up her game.
She went to the Isaiah Thomas School of Handles.
And then during this montage, they have a song that's playing. And that song just sounds a lot like this TLC song, Unpretty, to me.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
It's Hinda Hicks, Our Destiny is the song that's playing.
I like the song, though. I do like the song.
I was trying to see if, it was possibly the same producers or something. Like, what happened? Why these 2 songs sound just alike?
Mm-hmm.
But Unpretty came first. At least it was released first.
So they were like, I want a song kind of like Unpretty, but it talks about, how.
Our destiny.
I want a TLC type song.
TLC type beat.
Yes. So that's what we see, and then in the next scene we see Quincy and his daddy, because his daddy is now coming to the USC games and stuff, and we see Quincy and his daddy, and they're at a bar having, or like a sports bar or whatever,
Yeah.
and having conversation.
And that's gotta make Sports Center.
Zeke and Q.
And he's trying to get highlights for Sports Center, and I don't know how big Sports Center is now. I guess people still watch ESPN and stuff, because they're always talking about Skip and and Shannon Sharp and stuff. I think that's ESPN. I don't know. They might be Fox.
Before he left, yeah.
Yeah, but back then, boy, if you on Sports Center, you something. And Dick Vitale and stuff, they show clips of him.
I'm like a kid in a candy store. Are you kidding me? I get so excited about it.
And Robin Roberts, right? Who is, what is she on? Good Morning, no, Today Show, one of those.
Season
is the probable emergence of USC as a basketball powerhouse.
Morning shows now, and we know her as Robin Roberts on that, but she was covering sports before that.
Yeah.
In case any of y'all didn't know.
Yeah, but yeah, they were really talking about, the women's too, because they were talking about both programs at USC in basketball, and talking about how it was one of the top recruiting classes for women, and who was a part of that.
One of the top recruiting classes. They are returning 4 starters from last year's squad.
Monica.
But it's very different than actually being name dropped like Quincy McCall.
Mm-hmm.
Heavily recruited freshman phenom, Quincy McCall.
So while they're at this bar, Quincy is, talking about, hey, they're saying I'm a definite lottery pick, blah, blah, blah.
It's people saying I'm a definite lottery pick.
His daddy is like hostile about that. He's like, tell them mind their business.
Tell them to mind their own damn business.
And then he tells Quincy, like, give yourself some time to develop and get an education.
Quincy, give yourself time to develop. Get an education.
So we saw Monica be told that, or essentially realizing that she needs to develop in her game. And then same thing with Quincy. Okay, yeah, you on top and people are saying you great, but you still need to develop. Even the greatest talents need to develop. And most importantly to the father, get an education. Because we know from the first part of the breakdown that we did, the father he went to the NBA before he finished college. And so then when his career went down, his injuries or whatever happened, then when he got ready to go back into the workforce, he feels that his not having a degree, and so does his wife apparently, feels like that's impacting his ability to make money.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want his kid in that position.
I believe this should have been the first time that he brought up just stay in school, because I think the impact would have been more if we saw, how him and his wife went back and forth, right? And then his son is living high and talking about basically going into the draft, and then he just dropped the bomb like, bruh, no, you need to stay in school because of all what we seen, what was going on with him and his relationship, right? And then to say, oh, that's this woman with this paternity suit.
There's this thing out there, this paternity suit.
Who's been hanging around at all the parties who say that, I'm her baby's daddy.
Some girl that's been hanging on at every party. Now I'm supposed to be her baby's daddy.
Yeah, but he did like an amazing segue.
The sooner you go pro, the sooner you got to deal with the mess I'm dealing with.
And he's just like, get your education and everything. But I do think it's important that he said that earlier in the movie too, because it shows that he's known this since Quincy was younger. We don't know when he realized it if we hadn't seen kind of the whole mantra of get your education, get your education. But he's like, yeah, the sooner you go pro, the sooner you got to deal with the mess I've been dealing with. Well, what, pray tell, mess are you dealing with, Daddy-O? And we find out, like you said, that there's a woman that is suing him for paternity, but he plays her off like she's just a groupie, kind of thing. And Q knows the deal on some level.
Tell me what?
I just told you.
He's like, well, is it true?
It's not true, is it?
His daddy like, you got the balls to ask me that?
You got the balls to ask me that?
And he's like, but if you need to hear me say it, it's not true.
You need to hear me say it. I'll say it. It's not true.
Like his daddy was just such.
But see, saying it's not true is not the same as saying I didn't smash. It's no chance, right? Because you could just be like, he could be holding that he smashed, but he's like, no, it ain't true. I ain't her baby daddy.
Yeah, well, I mean, how he minimized the woman. Like, see, to me, I think that Quincy is different. That he's not obviously cut from the same cloth as his father, even though they are related. I think he has the opportunity to play his life differently because of what he sees with the dynamic with his parents. But he's still going down the same path with this basketball thing. I'm gonna go on ahead and I'm gonna be in the NBA and forget my education. I'm just gonna be just like my dad. But maybe around this time he might be raising his eyebrow, like, do I really want to, try to be just like him or not?
But then after all this conversation, some cat comes up and he asks Quincy for his autograph.
Thanks, man. Can I get your autograph?
Mm-hmm.
But he don't ask the daddy
Zeke,
who was in the NBA, which shows you.
Yeah, sure. It's a Paul.
Times done changed on him. And we remember earlier in the movie, it was just the reverse, right? Quincy was at his high school basketball game, and after the game, somebody's coming up asking his father while he, whether or not he will sign the autograph.
Yeah, so it just kind of shows that, well, now if you do go to the NBA, there's no guarantee of lasted glory or everlasting glory, because you're going to be just like me, sitting next to the next person who is, overtaking you in terms of esteem.
And in this case, at least it happens to be his son.
Yeah.
He could get a little bragging rights.
But that act alone drives him more into wanting to just go to the NBA. The guy coming up and asking for an autograph, right? Because it's feeding into that ego portion of it. Because they say, I could be a lottery pick.
Sorry, Ma.
So Quincy gets home after his father drops this bombshell on him, and his mother is there out by the pool, and she is drinking. Clearly, she's been crying, and then he asks if it's about Dad.
It's about Dad.
And she's like, I guess he told you or whatever.
I guess he talked to you.
He tries to encourage her. Hey, don't sweat it. The truth is bound to come out. The truth is going to come out,
I mean, the truth's bound to come out sooner or later, right?
And she like, who truth are we talking about?
Whose truth are you talking about?
Well, we can't let something like this break up the family.
And that just lets you know, like, man, Quincy has really kind of been oblivious to the details as to, why his mama or why they would be arguing like when he was a kid. They've been arguing for years.
Yeah. But he's like, you do believe him, right? And
I mean, you do believe him, right?
then he buck up to his mama. Why he buck up to his mama like that?
Hmm.
Talking about, you gonna take the word of some trick over Pops?
Yeah.
Bruh.
So you gonna take the word of some trick over Pop?
Because he believes in his father, right? And he's like, this is all about money. And
let it go.
Oh, this ain't nothing but about money.
Quincy, please.
He's like, remember how you always telling me, not to be, watch those women, right?
How many times you yourself done told me to watch these hoes out there?
She like, I should have been telling your father.
I should have been telling your father that.
Bruh. The way she
played that role.
Voice, yeah. But so like at the beginning when they walk up, she I don't know, turns off the music or something, whatever she does with the big giant remote. That's like, that means you had money back then.
Yeah.
You had a big giant remote control.
Yes. And so then the mother decides that she just gonna let him know how she knows. And she leans over and pulls out these old school private investigator photos that are like in black and white.
Huh?
It shows the father, like hotel room or something like that, kissing on a woman.
I hired somebody. Ain't that pathetic?
Yeah, so I don't know if they're conflating two things, right? Because I'm going to think logically, right? So this lady who supposedly have this kid, is that an old kid or is it a new kid, right? Is it from back in his glory days or is it a new one now, right? And these pictures that you see, is it the lady who's claiming that he has the kid or is this just some different one? And then you be like, yeah, it's his kid because I got the pictures of him with the new lady, or does it not matter? It's just that, okay, I confirmed that he's cheating and I don't even know why y'all even brought up the paternity thing. So yeah, I don't know, they should have just laid that out better for me. I guess it kind of don't matter, but it matters to me.
Well, and I think that Quincy probably looked at his mother like a nag, really. Like she was always telling him, Quincy, watch out for the girls. Quincy, 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 right? And so he would figure that, hey, she nags my dad just like she nags me. There's not a reason to believe that he's really doing anything. This is his
He misunderstood.
He did.
Because it would still take the man or the boy to do something too. right? Just because you're saying watch out for these hoes don't mean that the daddy ain't do nothing, right?
Right. So then she says what we had been suspecting as we were discussing. I used to think that I was lucky being married to Zeke McCall.
I used to think that I was lucky being married to Zeke McCall.
Bing.
So she don't feel so lucky anymore. And she goes on to say, like, I'm just tired. I'm tired.
I am tired.
She's tired of what she thought would be a good thing, and it's not.
Yeah, so is this toxic?
Well, I think that people would suggest it's toxic. Certainly when you're
But-
dealing with those types of issues in your marriage, it's jacked up.
Yeah. People work through it all the time, and I think it's probably bad, but, I don't know if it's to the level of toxicity. So I would say we do know that this is could be 2 times, possibly 1 time that he's actually doing something, right? Because there's this proof, right? Or all the calls could have been the same person. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
Yeah.
but they did try to make it a point that he been doing this for at least as long as we've been here
Since
in
he
this
was
movie.
at least 11, he's had late night meetings. And I think that it's safe to say that he was straight up cheating the whole time. And, again, I'm not defending the cheating or whatever. But what I am saying is that basketball wives and all that, it kind of unfortunately goes with the territory, right? Where you're going to have groupies who are there. This is why the mother said what she said. Now, of course, the man is the one who decides if he's going to actually, cheat on his wife.
Yeah, but also, is it confronted too? I would think, like, if it takes you 8 years to say I got evidence and then now I confront it versus kind of knowing this is what happening and confront it, right? Because that's what causes the corrective action sometimes on people. Sometimes they don't correct, right? But when there's a confrontation there, then you can know, next step. Now they know that, you can say now they know something wrong. Now they know that I'm not okay with this, right? Now they know that I know and then continue to do it. Then that's a different level of so-called disrespect.
So here's the proposition, unfortunately. The proposition is that the confrontation is meaningless unless you're going to actually do something.
Well, I guess.
Because it's training the person, just like she complained about him not coming home, but she didn't do anything about it all those years. And I'm not putting responsibility on her for his wrongdoing. What I'm saying is when she doesn't do anything about it, I'm going to complain every night. He is trained now to know that you just
but I'm still talking about 2 different things, right? Versus him knowing that and not acting differently indicates something. It's all I'm saying on his part.
I just think that,
that if she doesn't leave, then, or if you don't do anything, then the confrontation matters none.
It depends on, was there a real confrontation as far as I know you're actually cheating? It was always the accusations of cheating without the evidence, right? So she's confronting him each day by saying, I don't like this. If you're doing this, I don't like this, right? But she never said, she never seems to go that far. But when he comes up with the allegations, or maybe she always knew that he was maybe doing a little something. I mean, it's different things that people have set up along the way with these high profile marriages and relationships. And it can be complicated. I look at it and I'm like, hey, that ain't a deal I'm willing to make, but the marriage is a deal between those 2 people,
Yes.
And so.
Yeah. So I'm talking about them 2 specifically. Did she confront him before?
All we know is that she confronted him about coming home late.
Right. But she told Quincy, I didn't know for certain before, but now, I hired whoever to go and, follow him around and actually get some evidence. And now I know.
Late nights and his meetings, and I still needed proof.
So I think that she may or may not have confronted it, but the only thing that we know is that at this late date, she's coming up with pictures from a private investigator. Now, maybe some people would view her confronting it if she, is earlier when we saw her complaining about his late hours and these meetings that he supposedly has to go to. But this may well have been the first time that he confronted it. I mean, that she confronted it. And if it is, then, unfortunately, she shot herself in the foot with getting it under control. But like you pointed to earlier, you know, people work through these things all the time. And that is no value judgment or anything about whether or not you shouldn't. I'm not making that claim. That's an individual claim that is a decision that the people involved have to make. I'm not saying anytime this happened, then nope, because that's not how relationships work. It's just not. And different people have different levels of tolerance for whatever, you know. That's what I think about it. But unfortunately, in this situation, Quincy realizes, like, just like that, it's like, bam, my family is falling apart. He didn't think his mother would be leaving. His mother's always been complaining about this or that and being a nag, if you will, from Quincy's perspective.
Yeah, so why was that line in there about, oh, there's no need to break up the family? How you know the family was breaking up? You just
because
walked
she
up.
said she was tired, and he know what the heck that means.
Oh, I thought he said that before she said that.
Oh, maybe he did say it beforehand, but I just think that he realizes that something is different about this. And I mean, obviously, you know, if a potential baby is involved, and but then he tries to comfort his mother. So imagine this, you know, you're 19 or so years old, and this thing is happening, and you're trying to come into your manhood and be a man, and you love your mother, and you're trying to comfort her through this situation that's very devastated. But at the same time, you too are devastated, because it doesn't matter if you're 6 years old, 16, 36, 46. Nobody wants their parents who have been together all the time they can remember to break up. Nobody wants that. And they don't want the family to break up. Nobody wants people to split up. Like, that is very hard, no matter the age. And for it to be sprung upon him, like earlier today, he played a great game and he's thinking about his highlights. And then by the end of the night, he's like, my parents might be getting divorced.
Yeah. But see, at the same time, you had Cedra get hurt in her game with Monica, you know, looking on. But Quincy, he ain't even go to her game like he used to in high school because she wasn't playing. She was just on the bench. So he wasn't even showing up.
Yeah, and maybe too because his father was, you know, around and he was spending time with his daddy. And then after he found out what happened, he had to go by his mama's house. So like you said,
the game was going on when he met with the father.
Yeah, that's true. So Monica, you know, is like the luckiest person ever if you want to call somebody else getting hurt so you can get your chance lucky. But, you know, she had shown that she had built up her skills. So not only is it the luck to get the opportunity to go in, it was the luck meeting the preparation of being ready to go play, right? She hopefully is a better player than she was day one when she got to the school. So she gets her opportunity.
If you made it this far, type friends in the comments so we know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end of our nice long breakdowns.
Thank you so much. And don't forget to check out this video that's on the screen right now.